Welcome again to Ancient Tales for Today, 古今今谈. Well, we talked about in the last lesson the greatest sacrifice, 最伟大的牺牲. Okay, now we have a father and a son. Abraham has passed all the tests. Now we have only one problem. We've got to get the son married. So in this lesson, lesson number 20, we are going to talk about how to find a wife. How to find a wife. So you want to stay by because they did it differently in those days. So stay by, for we are going to talk about how to get a wife.
Story number 20, How to Find a Wife. What would you say is the best way of finding a wife? Different cultures have different ideas. Here's a story from the ancient tales that tells us something important about how to make such a choice. Abraham was getting really old and his son Isaac was not married. So Abraham had no grandchildren. Remember, he was promised that he would be the father of a great nation. Now he had a son, but without grandchildren, how could that happen? I'm sure he was also thinking about Isaac's happiness too. Abraham wanted his son to be happily married to a good wife. He did not appreciate the local girls, so he sent his servant to find a wife for his son from among his own people. The servant traveled back to where Abraham had come from. But how do you choose a suitable girl? The servant asked for heaven's help. Whoever came to the well to give him and his camels a drink would be the right girl. This would be the one and would show that she was kind and generous if she helped this stranger. This is what happened. The girl who happily gave him a drink from the well was called Rebekah. She also went back to the well and got more water to give all of his camels. This was the proof the servant needed, so he gave her some expensive jewelry and asked to see her father. Both the family and Rebekah agreed to the proposal. So Rebekah went back with Abraham's servant and married Isaac. The ancient tale also records that Isaac loved Rebekah. The important part of the story for us is the character of Rebekah. She was helpful and kind, and she was also willing to leave her home and marry someone she had not met. She strikes me as a lovely and confident person.
You know, in the real life nowadays, one of the big problems we all face is, who are we going to marry? Or, for some cases, are they going to get married? So in this lesson, lesson number 20, we're going to talk about how to find a wife. As a question, well, it's a little bit different. So let's begin by saying, what would you say is the best way of finding a wife?
你自己却认为最好的方法
找一个太太是什么? Okay? What would you say is the best way of finding a wife? Different cultures have different ideas. Okay? 不同的文化有不同的观念. Okay? Culture is 文化. So I have my Western culture, 西方的文化, and perhaps you have your Eastern culture, 东方的文化. Okay? different ideas, 不同的观念。Now here's a story from the ancient tales that tells us something important about how to make such a choice. Now, they do it differently, but there still is something very important in this ancient tales. Now, it tells us something important about how to make such a choice. 怎么能够做这种这个选择 choice 选择 Abraham was getting really old. Well, think of it. Abraham was about 100 years old when his baby son Isaac was born. So he's 100 years old. So, yeah, he was getting pretty ancient himself, very old. And his son was not married. So here you have a father who has a son, and the son is not married. Therefore, of course, Abraham had what? No grandchildren. 没有孙子孙女. Okay? No grandchildren. Now remember, he was promised, 上帝就给他应许, okay, that he would become the father of a great nation. 那个承诺，这个应许是怎么说？ You will become the father of a great nation. 你会变成一个很伟大的国度的先祖。Okay, the father of a great nation. But without grandchildren, 没有孙子，没有孙女, how could that happen? 怎么可能啊? How can you do that if you don't have grandchildren? You're in trouble immediately. I am sure that he was thinking about Isaac's happiness too. You know, getting married. Now, sometimes I must admit, 我自己承认, some marriages are not happy marriages. 有些婚姻不是很快乐的. But for me, I have a very happy marriage, and I'm sure Abraham was thinking, oh, I want my son to have happiness. 他能够找到幸福快乐. Okay, so Abraham wanted his son to be happily married to a good wife. Okay, 他要娶一个好的太太 and 变成一个 happily married. What does it mean to be happily married? 婚姻很幸福, 很幸福. Happily married. So you're happy, 快乐, and 有福气, 幸福. He did not appreciate the local girls. Okay, that sounds like parents nowadays. Parents, they look at the girls and they say, no, I don't want my son to marry one of them. So what did he do? He sent his servant, 他的仆人, to find a wife for his son. 为他的儿子找到一个妻子。Okay. From his own people. 从他自己的民族找到。So, the servant is going to have to travel a long distance away. Now remember, Abraham has come a long way there. So now he's sending his servant back to find a wife for his son. Going on. The servant traveled back to where Abraham had come from. Okay? The servant went to what place? Where Abraham had come from. 他从那个地方出来的. So that's where the servant traveled to. Okay? But the question is, how do you choose a suitable girl? How do you choose 一个合适 suitable girl 合适的女孩子 So, and this is not a bad idea. When you're looking for a wife, because you have one wife for your life, 人生一个太太 So choose very carefully. So the servant asked for heaven's help. 就求上天的帮助 So he was a believer in God, like his master. So he asked for help. So what happened? Well, we'll come back in a few minutes and look at what happened. Stay by. As we come to more light on the path, we come to Isaiah 42:16.
以赛亚书42章16节。
My wife loves this.
真的吗？
Yeah. Okay. I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn the darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These things are the things I will do. I will not forsake them.
非常有意思的一节圣经的章节。来，我读中文，让我们的朋友们都更了解它。以赛亚书的第42章的16节说：“我要引瞎子行不认识的道，领他们走不知道的路，在他们面前使黑暗变为光明，使弯曲变为平直。这些事我都要行，并不离弃他们。”
You know what, Lena? Sometimes we say love is blind. How do you say that in Chinese?
对，中国人也是说爱是盲目的，因为爱什么都可以做了。
Yeah. When you're in love, you don't. It's surprising people don't have accidents. Sometimes they do.
对。
Now, if love is blind, then it makes a lot of good sense. 真的是非常非常重要。That God is willing to lead blind people
是的
to know the right way to go.
而且他为那个瞎子所预备的都是好的事情了。
Right. So, if love is blind and you are in love, then you better pray a lot.
OK， 对，是的，是这样子，应该这样子。
Okay, because we want to have God's guidance in our lives.
艾老师，我有一个问题，看这个故事里边的时候哈，亚伯拉罕他怎么会那么信任他的仆人呢？去为他的儿子去找一个太太？那我们说婚姻是很重要的事情啊，尤其是那个时候的婚姻是终生的、永久性的。那他的儿子和他都没有见过这个女孩子，他却把这个事情交托给他的仆人去办呢
？Well, I think that the important thing is, and it's hard to understand, but the important thing is he trusted his servant. His servant believed in God.
对，他们两个都是相信同一个上帝。
Yeah.
而且两个都是很忠心的。
非常忠心的，很虔诚的。
对。
So he trusted himself, of course, but he also trusted his servant.
对。
And so this is the important thing. Now, let's go on to the next part of our lesson. So, in our last section, we see that the servant asked for heaven's help. Now, here's the deal. Whoever came to the well to give him and his camels a drink would be the right girl. So this is the deal. He said, if somebody comes to the well, 这个水井, right, and gives him some water, brings the water up out of the well and gives him a drink of water, and gives his camels. What is a camel? A camel is 骆驼, okay, and they get thirsty too. So if the girl gives him some water to drink and the camels to drink, then 那样的话, this would be the right one. 这位就是对的, the right one. And would show, 会显示 that she was kind, 善良的 kind. Are you a kind person? And generous, 慷慨的. Because if she helped this stranger, 如果她愿意帮忙一个陌生人，这个会显出来，显示她是 kind and generous. Going on. She also went back to the well and got more water to give to all his camels. That's interesting. She didn't stop with just one camel or with him. She went back to the well, 这个水井, and got more water, 这个打出来, to give to all his camels. All, so there's more than one camel. This was proof. This was the proof the servant needed. 这个仆人所需要的凭据证明就是这么多. So he gave her some expensive jewelry. 他就给她一些贵的, well, what do you say? Jewelry, 装饰品. Valuable things in those days was measured in jewelry, 这个首饰, jewelry. Okay, probably made out of gold. Okay, expensive. Okay, it says expensive, 很贵 the jewelry, and he asked to see her father. 这个请他能不能跟他的爸爸见面。Of course, he's a very proper person. He does everything the right way. Okay? Both the family and Rebecca agreed to the proposal. Okay? 不单是 Rebecca， 她的家庭也同意 okay, to the proposal. Now, this is an interesting word. Proposal, in this case, is 提婚 okay, okay, 提婚呢 proposal. Now, sometimes a proposal is a 计划. You know, if we're not talking about marriage, we're just talking about a plan. So, in this case, we're talking about marriage, 是提婚, or, well, it's a plan about getting married. So I guess the idea is still the same. So Rebecca went back
with Abraham's servant.
Now this is interesting. Okay? Now this is interesting. Rebecca went back with Abraham's servant and married Isaac. Had she ever met Isaac? No. What did she know about Isaac? Not too much. So she was willing. Somehow I think heaven sort of told her, yes, you should go back with this stranger. The ancient tale records that Isaac loved Rebekah. This book, this whole book, says just these 3 words. Isaac loved Rebekah. 以撒爱上 Rebekah. Going on. Now we come to the hard part. We try in every one of these stories to make a point. Maybe 能够找到一个教训，那这个是更加好。If we can find something that we can learn, then that's a good idea. The important part of the story for us, as far as I am concerned, is the character of Rebekah. Rebekah 的品格 is pretty special. She was pretty special. That means 相当不一样，特别。She was helpful and kind. Okay, helpful, 很肯帮助人家 and kind, 很善良的，很仁慈。She was also willing to leave her home. She was willing to leave her home, 就离开她的家 and marry somebody she had not met. 要跟一个还没有见面过，还不认识的一个人结婚了。She is pretty special. She strikes me as a lovely and confident person. 她打动我，我认为她是相当可爱，也是蛮有自信心。Thanks for joining us. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, there's a couple of words here. Take a look at one of them. Any one you want.
我希望您解释一下这个 proposal.
Proposal. Proposal is when a person actually 求婚呢。
对，这是一个快乐的时刻
Yeah, a proposal. Sometimes proposal means 计划。
计划对。
But in this case, proposal is
是求婚。做生意的时候，那个 proposal 提出来的时候是一个计划企划，
Yeah.
但是在要商谈婚事的时候，这个时候就是求婚了。
Right. Okay, and we'll have one last one here. Confident. What does that mean?
自信心，自信。
That's right. And too confident becomes 骄傲。
对对
Proud.
对，正常的自信是一个很可爱的。
Yes.
A very old book and very old stories from thousands of years ago, and a few things that we might be able to learn. I think the greatest lesson that I learned from here is find somebody with a good character. 一定要找到一个好品格的一个人，对象一定要是好人。Now, we're going to change now. We're going to talk about another, and we're going to talk about some food. A story about soup. Join us next time for a very interesting story from the ancient tales about somebody who was pretty hungry and wanted to eat some soup. Join us next time.
That's all for today, and thanks for watching. If you like Ancient Tales for Today, please visit atft.chinesehope.tv. You may also contact us by writing to ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Again, that's ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Tell your friends about Ancient Tales for Today. See you next time.